in Cleveland, Ohio. This is the All Access Med School Admissions Podcast. Hello again, everybody. I'm your host, Christian Essman. I'm the Senior Director of Admissions and Financial Aid here at the medical school, and it's great to be with you again. Hey, this time we're taking you to the Big Easy of New Orleans, Louisiana, to hear about the Tulane University School of Medicine. Before I get to that, though, I hope that you have some great plans for this summer as everything's starting to open back up. And if you're initiating the application process, that all the tips and advice you've been hearing in this podcast have been helpful as you fine-tuned your application. Now that the AMCAS application is available for submission, remember to double and triple check everything, the spelling, the grammar, and all the little details, because once you smash that submit button, the only changes you'll be able to make are to your contact information. Everything else is basically then set in stone. So make sure you are 1,000% happy with what you're presenting and submitting to medical schools, okay? All right. Hey, okay, I've had this conversation recorded for a little while, but life and my whole day job have been holding me up a little bit, but I'm really excited to get you this interview with Mr. Mike Woodson, the Director of Admissions at the Tulane University School of Medicine. So here's a little background on the medical school we're featuring here today. The Tulane University School of Medicine is located in New Orleans, Louisiana, and began modestly in 1834 by three young physicians. Today, the medical school is the second oldest medical school in the Deep South and one of the oldest in the United States. While New Orleans is primarily known for Mardi Gras celebrations and round-the-clock nightlife and their signature Creole cuisine, it's located along the Mississippi River and the Gulf Coast and is actually one of the busiest international commercial ports in the world. So, fun fact there for you. The Tulane University School of Medicine is a vibrant center for education, research, and public service, and is located right in the heart of the city. After the devastation of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the School of Medicine established itself as a vital component in the renewal of one of America's greatest cities. The mission of Tulane University School of Medicine is to improve human health and foster healthy communities through discovery and translation of the best science into clinical practice and education, to deliver the highest quality patient care and to prepare the next generation of distinguished clinical and scientific leaders. Tulane University School of Medicine's commitment to the New Orleans community can be seen in their more than 20 student-run clinics and their Gold Ring Center for Culinary Medicine, which not only educates future healthcare professionals about nutrition principles in a practical way, but also offers free nutrition-focused cooking classes for community members. They are a private institution and accept applications from all U.S. citizens, international applicants, including Canadians, and those with the DACA status. For the entering class of 2020, the Tulane University School of Medicine received about 13,000 applications and interviewed 600 for a class size of 190, which included 188 for their MD track and 2 for their MD PhD track. 51% were women and 18% self-identified from groups underrepresented in medicine. All right, let me tell you about my guest today. Mike Woodson began working for Tulane University School of Medicine in June 2017 as the Assistant Director of Admissions, but he was promoted to his current role of Director of Admissions in March of 2019. In his current role, he oversees the day-to-day operations of the School of Medicine Admissions Office while serving on several committees within the School of Medicine, such as the Admissions Review Committee, the Multicultural Affairs Committee, Professionalism and Promotions Committee, and the LCME Accreditation Committee. He's also a member of the AAMC's GSA Committee on Admissions and the AAMC's MCAT Validity Committee. Prior to his time at Tulane, Mr. Woodson worked in admissions at the University of Houston and Randolph-Macon College. Before embarking on a career in higher education admissions, Mr. Woodson had a career in athletics, holding various roles in the sports industry, such as high school athletic director, director of sports and competition for the Special Olympics, athletics facility director for a university, and director of basketball operations for a semi-professional basketball team. Mr. Woodson graduated from Elon College, which is now Elon University, with a BA in Corporate and Broadcast Communications. He obtained his master's degree from Virginia Commonwealth University and is currently pursuing his PhD in Higher Education Administration from Liberty University. All right, there you have it. Now let's hear all about the Tulane University School of Medicine with Mr. Mike Woodson. Enjoy. Hey, Mike, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Christian, thank you for having me. This is an awesome platform, and anything I can do to dispel myths and get the word out there, I'm happy for it.
Well, we're gonna cover any myths that you have about Tulane, and that's what I asked you here for, so we can talk all things about your medical school and your admissions process. But before we do that, I want to kind of find out a little bit, let people hear a little bit more about you. How did you wind up in admissions?
Well, as you know, there's no major in college. You can't major in admissions. And it's funny because this is like my second career in admissions world. I first started, growing up, I always, of course, want to go to NBA, want to be a sports athlete, like a kid. And, being a 5'10" high school basketball player sitting on the bench, I realized that NBA, it may not be for me. But I always want to do something with sports. And so I went to college. I worked in sports marketing. I went to Elon College. Now it's Elon University. I worked in sports marketing. I did all the encore promotions, the people that you pull people up the stand and get them to these wacky contests.
Yeah. Gosh.
And I loved it. And, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I ended up working in semi-pro basketball, college athletics, just in a realm of different sports stuff. And then I became a high school athletic director, and I loved it because I loved basketball. I could coach basketball while I was athletic director. And then after a while, a lot of my players, of course, your ultimate goal as a high school coach is to get them to play in college. And so you're talking to counseling them on different colleges they can go to, whether it's close, away, different advantages and disadvantages of certain schools. And then they start bringing their friends to me about like, hey, can you read over my personal statement? Can you, what about this school? What do you know about that school? And I find myself liking that aspect more than anything, helping people figure it out, helping them along their college search process. And so on a whim, after probably 6-7 years, like high school AD, a friend of mine who I graduated with, who was a couple years ahead of me in high school, he was the director of admissions at a local school. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and the school was Randolph-Macon College, a little small liberal arts school right outside of Richmond. And he was the director of admissions there, Anthony Ambrosi. I still love him to this day. And I called him up and I was like, hey, I see you have a counselor position. Tell me about that. What is this? And he just started talking to me. And at that time I was like 31, 32 years old, and he was telling me about it. And I was like, that sounds pretty good. So you travel and talk to people about college? That seems pretty cool. And long story short, he hired me, started at the bottom, And I loved every minute. I loved talking to students, loved helping them figure it out, giving the info sessions, all that kind of stuff. And I just loved every minute of that. And so then went from there, went to my wife got a job in Houston, so we moved there. I worked for the University of Houston, a big state school. I love that admissions side of it. And then talking to people at a different level, because they have different ideas. I mean, when you're working for a small liberal arts versus a big public, sometimes it's two different types of students and you give them two different spiels. So then my wife got a job here in New Orleans at Tulane. My wife works in athletics, and so she got a job here at Tulane. And I had a couple opportunities to stay in admissions, undergrad admissions. But then when I saw this opportunity, I was intrigued just because I know what education can do. What people say, it changes lives, opens so many doors with that college degree. And then in my head, I was thinking, how many more doors can I open? How many lives can I change if I help people figure out the med school process? And so Luckily, I fooled them here. They hired me, and then it's been great just because I was able to bring a different lens because. As you know, a lot of people in med school admissions, they may not have admissions experience per se. And so I was able to use a lot of my undergrad admissions experience to do things here that I don't think that they've done or thought about in the past, just because it's just different.
Right.
And so, and that was good. I love that aspect of it. And like I said, long winded short, that's how I came into my second career of admissions and now the medical admissions.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Yeah, well, great background. So you're a new kind of newer transplant to New Orleans. A lot to do there. What's become some of your favorite things to do, or you guys have tried out?
So I've been here about 4 years, and it's one of those things where if people come visit, they're like, "Oh, where should I eat?" I'm like, I don't know, because every place you're gonna go is good.
Yeah.
But going out eating, it's awesome. We live in a neighborhood right by the Lake Pontchartrain. And so we'll go up by the lake. We can walk to the lake and have dinner and drinks up there. We were there this weekend. It was great. And so, and it's also New Orleans. So it's great that you can go outside and do stuff 10, 11 months out of the year. So that's right. Awesome too. But and we also live near City Park. City Park is one of the biggest parks within a city in the country. It's right there with Memorial Park in Houston, Central Park in New York. And so we'll go there, bike rides. They have a golf course in the park. We played golf there before. But then pre-COVID, there's a festival every weekend in New Orleans. New Orleans does like to have fun. And so the different festivals and hanging out and doing this stuff. It's not, like I said, New Orleans is a fun city. I tell everyone it's more than Bourbon Street.
Yeah, of course.
It's so much more than that. And it's such a fun city and a family friendly city that I tell everyone, like, you either love it or hate it, but most people love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I was looking forward to, it was last spring, we were supposed to have the pre-health advisors meeting in New Orleans.
I was going to speak at that too.
I had my hotel booked. I'm like, this could be great, and then so that didn't happen, but maybe we'll get back there, reschedule
maybe
it. So cool stuff. Well, hey, since we're on the subject of New Orleans and I have you here to talk about Tulane, let's start with the highlights of the school. Like, what are some of those things that you like to emphasize to, say, interviewees when you're talking about curricular things? What do you like them to take away when students want to know things about your curriculum?
Gotcha. So I tell everyone that, there's 150 some odd med schools out there, and the basis of the curriculum is pretty much the same. You're going to have 1.5, 2 years of your hard sciences. And then you're going to have your rotations, your clinical sciences after that, and throw some research in the middle of that. And that's pretty much every single medical school. But for us, what we try to do, especially early on in our curriculum, is introduce them to those concepts of how to be a doctor, essentially, and the type of physician that we want to produce. So we have a Foundations of Medicine course that they take their first and second year in the middle of their hard sciences. And that's the things where they learn, they put practical use to the things that they've learned in their curriculum. So if it's a cardiovascular block, for example, we have a simulated patients center here that they go and perform those tests while they're doing the cardiology block, that kind of stuff, or name whatever block, that's what they get the chance to do that on a live patient per se. Might as well do it for practice then before you actually get into the real clinical setting. And now, just like a lot of medical schools, we're taking a hard look at our curriculum as far as diversity, inclusion, and so forth. And so we have a subcommittee under our curriculum committee that's going through a lot of our curriculum and trying to see, is it really promoting the values that not just our school, but medicine, what we want to promote. And so
that's great.
That's a good thing. We have students on there because I will tell you, like, you never want to feel old until you're around a med student and then they tell you something like, what? what is that? What are you talking about? I've never heard that. Mr. Woodson is on Twitter. I'm like, Twitter, what?
Yeah.
And so it's good that we include our students in that, because they're more on the ground floor, and getting stuff, hearing more about it than some of our, I'll just say, old people, and I'm including myself in that. And so it's good to have them on that committee, and just trying to look through our entire committee, our entire curriculum, and make sure that we're really promoting the values that we want to in medicine and as a school, and just become the doctors we want. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like there may be some minor, some kind of fine tuning in the future with regards to your curriculum a little bit, with diversity, inclusion, and those kind of aspects. How do you describe the curriculum? Is it lecture? Is it a hybrid of lecture and like mediums group stuff? Like, what does that look like?
Yes, it is a hybrid system. I'll tell you, we're trying to move further away from the strict lecture base, do more team-based learning, case studies, and so forth. We're trying to do that, but there's some stuff that the lecture just works better for that.
Of course.
So it's a hybrid of that. I guess just like from what I hear in most med schools, the lectures aren't required, but they're recorded, so students can learn how they learn the best. So they don't have to be there. I know some students, like I know if I was in med school, and like when I was in school, I had to be the person that I had to show up in class because I had to stand and I had to do that. But I know everyone's not like that. I know students that listen to lectures on double speed, and it sounds like Alvin and Chipmunks, but it works for them. But that is something that we allow our students, because not every student learns the exact same way. So try not to pigeonhole them into a way of learning. So another common question that we receive is usually like, hey, how soon can I get out and start seeing patients? When does that start happening? So what does that look like at Tulane? Yeah. I love when students come in right in med school and like, all right, I want to be a doctor now, and so forth. But I will say with us, they start seeing patients very early on in their first year. We do hold off a little bit until they get their feet wet.
Just some basic skills you got to learn first.
Of course. But I would say our first patient interaction with our students their first year is with our student run clinics. That's the way that most of our students get that patient interaction early on in their career.
And you have a lot of them. Those student run clinics.
Over 20. It's one of those things where I think that if we're truly going to be ambassadors for our community here in New Orleans, it really shows that if our students are out in the community and doing the things that our community needs. And so a lot of these popped up right after Hurricane Katrina. And so when they popped up for a lot of our patient population, this is their only access to medical care. Yeah. And so having our students seeing that firsthand, and like I said, being involved in a community, but also learning that soft skills that is not just examining the patients, it's hearing their story, learning that empathy, meeting where the patient's at, and so forth. And our patients are so appreciative of that. And so I think our students really get, besides just the technical aspect of learning to be a doctor, they get those soft skills that I think is going to help them, whether they stay here or not. They'll carry these lessons throughout the rest of life.
If some listeners remember, like Katrina was absolutely devastating to that area. But if there's some positive things that you can point to that came out of that, maybe it's the list of different, student run clinics that kind of popped up around the city there that seem to be serving a need, in that area.
It is. And I like the fact that our student run clinics, they cater to the neighborhood of the patients they're in, the population they serve. So we do have one that's in New Orleans East, where there's a large Vietnamese population there. Okay. And so that student clinic caters towards that population. So it's great especially for some of our Vietnamese students. They can go and they feel like they're giving back to their community. We have community. We have patients that's either homeless population or mothers with children who are homeless, or whatever the case may be, a Hispanic serving population or Spanish speaking population, where it helps them, because we have a lot of our students who they major in Spanish, they've been in like Spanish immersion programs, and they can use those skills, and so they'll go there to those clinics, and they feel like not just their medical skills are being used, but their Spanish speaking skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Used. And it helps in that clinic so much.
Yeah, that's great. What about the grading system in the first 2 years? What's that look? Is it pass fail? Is it graded? What's the vibe?
We are pass fail on our first 2 years. And that helps because, as you know, medical students, they come in competitive and anxious already. You know, it's like they were bred to be that way, it seems like. And so they come in and you know, they're super competitive. And I've heard the horror stories about pre-med people, like they were in study groups and someone told them the wrong answer, just so people get the wrong answer to get the right answer. I know. And I don't know. Well, like I said, I don't know that mentality. If I understood that, then I feel like I'm wrong. Something's wrong with me. But so we try to, as much as possible, not make our culture here ultra competitive. And so the pass fail the first 2 years really do help with that.
I agree with that. And a lot of other schools that I've had on the show are the same way. And I think it should be reassuring for listeners to hear that, boy, it's kind of a relief in a way. Yes. Like you work your tail off to get there, and then you get to med school and it's like this, hey man, we're all in this together now.
You're right.
We're not competing with one another, and there's not a ranking thing. Like it is, we are just here to let's bring our energy together and, you know, move forward and be successful together. So
that is certainly the goal of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. What about, we're talking about some clinical things. For my homework, you guys have a network of 10 plus hospitals in the New Orleans area. So how do students maybe in their third and fourth year get assigned to different places? Do they rotate around? How does that work?
Oh yeah, definitely. So students can almost list their preference if they want to, just depending on what their future goals are in medicine. Mm-hmm. So for example, we have several hospitals within like a 3-block radius of our campus here. We have the VA hospital, UMC, the University Medical Center, and then we have actually Tulane Hospital right here. I can actually look at my office window and see all three of them. You know? And so, we have those there. But then we also have Children's Hospital. We have affiliation with Children's Hospital that's maybe 10 minutes away from here.
Okay.
Another hospital that a lot of our students do OBGYN, their rotations on. But then also what we do is we also place people in different clinics and hospitals around the state. And it's great because we house it, we have furnished apartments for them, so they don't have to worry about that. Just worry about getting there. And so they get to see other parts of the state and so it's not, if someone wants to go into a rural medicine, for example, they can go to a family practice somewhere out in a rural setting and see how it's done there. I'll tell you that our students who do that and come back, they come back like, oh my gosh, I was pretty much the doctor there, because it was me and the physician.
Yeah.
And so they get a good lesson about what family medicine is out in a rural setting or another specialty out in a rural setting. And so some of our students that come back from those settings outside New Orleans, they come back with a different appreciation. They're like, oh my gosh, I really got to do things because the resources aren't there in those areas. And so, and of course, we help them out, of course, because we furnish the apartment, we find housing and so forth. And so, and the students can request that if they want to, but if they don't have a preference, we'll just set them up.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention too, because I had to look this up, is that your Tulane School of Medicine is not like physically attached to Tulane Undergrad University. Like how far away is Tulane's the university?
We're about 10 minutes away.
Okay, so it didn't look very far.
It's not far. Yeah, there's a shuttle that goes like every hour on the hour, like back and forth.
So if you need to go over there, you can.
Correct.
Okay.
Our students, as Tulane medical students, or or actually Tulane students, overall. So they get to use their library. They get to get in all the football games and basketball games for free. They get to, I will give a shout out to our pre-COVID med students. Our basketball team won the intramurals. So that was good.
Hey, even though it's a non-competitive environment, it does feel good to win sometimes.
Exactly right. And so our students do get to engage in that kind of stuff. So it's almost like I'm an adult, but I can still do some of this fun stuff that college kids do. Like,
cool. I'm glad I asked that because I just was, I'm like, I wonder if they're on the same camp. And then I just saw where they're not too far away, but it wasn't quite sure. So it's just 10-minute shuttle.
Yeah, but 10-minute shuttle ride or car ride. And that's with traffic. So it's very close and doable.
What about research opportunities? The next common question, like, Mike, when I come to Tulane, I want to do research. How can I do that?
Gotcha. So, and it's funny because it's one of those questions where they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in science. I got to do research, and so what are the opportunities? Because I need that for this and that. And first question I always ask them is, how much research do you really want to do? How much into your research you are? And I say, well, it'll look good on a residency application. I was like, but do you want to do research? And then I just wanted to get the wheels turning a little bit. I try to get people to do stuff because they want to do it and not because they feel like it's a requirement. Right. But there are a lot of different types of research opportunities here. Just because, you have people who still want to do that bench science type research, and then you have students who want to do the clinical research. And so the great thing about our research opportunities is so many, because we're connected to our School of Public Health. And so a lot of our students, if they want to do some type of clinical research, they can tap into that network as well.
Oh, that's great.
Do research with a lot of our clinicians. Louisiana Cancer Center is right across the street from us. Under a highway and then across the street, and so they can do research there. We have a lot of different clinics and centers here that can do research. Our biomedical sciences program is right here. So almost anything you want. So we do have two, formalized research opportunities. The DeBakey Scholars. That's kind of a research project. You start your first year and do all 4 years. And then we have a Aspire summer research program that has a formalized program that you do between your first and second years of medical school. All those topics you pick. Of course, you got to find a faculty advisor that work with you a little bit, but most of the time, those are all research ideas that come from our student they want to do. And then we also tell students, we have students now who are continuing their research that they were doing before they even got to medical school. So like whatever you want, we take on the culture of New Orleans. We don't take ourselves, it's kind of a little laid back. So whatever you get involved.
We'll figure it out. We'll get
it done. We'll work with you. With you.
Oh man, that's great. The other program I wanted to ask you about, which I've not seen this before, the culinary medicine program.
The Goldman Center for Culinary Medicine. Yes.
Tell me about it.
That is an awesome program because as medicine now kind of shifts toward this preventative medicine, I don't know if it's counterproductive. We're trying to get people to stop coming to see doctors, but that's good. We don't want to out of business, but hey, get people to stop coming to see doctors. And so we have this culinary medicine program, our Goldman Center, and it was started from a chef down. If everyone's been in New Orleans, the food is always good. And so chef here in New Orleans, and he runs the program. And essentially, it is telling people how to cook and eat healthy, but without losing the taste and flavor of the food. And that is very important especially for the population here in New Orleans. If you tell someone that, hey, you're obese, you have diabetes, you have heart condition, whatever the case may be, it has to go more than you need to change your diet. You need to lose weight. Yep. You need healthy. And so if you tell someone from New Orleans here, you can't have that shrimp and grits anymore.
No salt.
Walk out. They're going to walk right outside. You know what? Thanks, but no thanks, and walk out. And so it's better that our students can go in there, and if they're having these conversations with their patients, can say, hey, I see this or that. You probably should work on changing your diet. Well, if you substitute this for this, it doesn't lose any flavor, and it's just as healthy. And a perfect example is, and I use that shrimp and grits because I actually participated in this program last summer. One of these COVID
cool.
days, and my wife were like, all right, we're going to learn how to be a better cook.
Okay. Yeah.
And so this program, they prepare they give you all the ingredients, they give you the food. And so wife comes home with this big bag with all the ingredients, and we did it on Zoom. And she's like, all right, we're going to do shrimp and grits. I was like, oh, perfect. I'm like rubbing my hands together. I'm like, this is going to be great. I always want to learn how to make shrimp and grits. And she's like, okay. And it's going to be cauliflower shrimp and grits. I'm like, you can put all that stuff back in the bag. But we made it. It was simple to make. And as soon as I tasted it, I'm like, this is actually really good.
It's not that bad. Right.
And my wife, she will be the first one to say, I am not the biggest vegetable eater. And cauliflower is one that I can't stand, but making it in grits and of course putting shrimp in, it was the best, one of the better shrimp and grits I've ever had in the city. And I eat
that's cool.
At almost every restaurant because that's something you got to do when you come to New Orleans.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So then medical students can get involved in the program or pathway?
Yes, it's actually part of their curriculum here.
Oh, no kidding.
So that whole Foundation of Medicine, they actually go to, I think it's maybe twice a week or maybe once a month, something like that. They go to they actually go. Well, actually, during COVID, they just go pick up the stuff and bring it home in Zoom presentations. Okay. But I think next year, of course, start to open up more. And pre-COVID, they would actually go to the kitchen and nice. They work with the chef and learn how to cook. Yeah, I mean, stuff you see like on the Food Network. You know, chop onions correctly and
that's great.
Deveined shrimp and all this kind of stuff, and learn how to make this. And so it's such a better conversation to have with your patients when you're sitting there and telling them, hey, you need to eat healthy. Hey, you know what? I made this awesome shrimp and grits. I made this great etouffee, and it's so much more healthier and it tastes exactly the same. And the students it's in their first and second years, and then they can actually stick with it their third and fourth year. And by the fourth year, if you're kind of the leader of the organization, they actually send you to, I think it's New York, to actually work with a chef and for a week or so.
Whoa.
So you get that experience too. And really get the culinary experience and learn all about that healthy food. I love it. I can't talk enough about this.
Oh, that's great. And too, like it promotes healthy eating for medical students.
Correct.
Because, it can be really easy when you get busy just to let's just, go order another pizza or get another burrito or something. And because we got to keep, working and studying and stuff, but help promote, that's not a bad consequence either that comes out of that. So.
It's not. It's funny because I'm sure you've seen a lot of these applications where interest. I love to cook, and then you ask them about it. They're like, "Oh, I make waffles."
Pasta.
Pasta. Like, oh, okay. And so I've talked to library students, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I knew how to cook until I took this.
Yeah,
and this blew my mind."
Yeah, it's a little different when you probably have a chef in front of you,
right?
Like a trained chef than somebody watching somebody on TikTok make a dish.
You're sitting there cutting onions with a real chef's knife and not like a butter knife. I'm like, God,
right. Yeah. Like kind of stuff you might have at home. Oh man. Well, that's great. Well, I'm going to put links to that in the show notes because that's really unique. And I'm so glad I asked you about it because I've not seen that before. And I bet that appeals to a lot of people. Before we kind of switch gears here, Mike, and talk about the kind of the admissions part of our conversation, is there anything that you hear from current students that you find that you kind of hear the word on the street, like they really like about the school or like that really makes them happy? What is there kind of a vibe that you've picked up?
I would say that our students really like the fact that our school listens to them. And I think that makes it seem like their voice matters. And so when you have, it's kind of like, especially first year medical students, you feel like your voice is not heard. I just need to keep to my books, and to stay focused and don't ruffle any feathers or use whatever term you want. And it's great that we have an opportunity that our students can be involved in so many aspects of our school and their voices matter. as I said before, the curriculum committee, we had that subcommittee, but actually on the actual big curriculum committee, our students are on that committee. We have students on our missions committee. We have students on our professional and promotions committee. I mean, they're involved in every aspect of the school. And so they're getting a lesson in not just being a doctor, but just how the whole system works. And sometimes they can say, like, you know what? This isn't really working for us as students, or how we learn now, or how do we operate now. And it's great because it makes sure we're not just doing, well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah, right.
We're doing it. And it keeps us fresh, keeps us on our toes. And I think having that voice, I know everyone who we interview, and our students are heavily involved in the interview process. They say, like, oh my gosh, your students seem so happy. And I think it's because they feel like their voice matters and their input matters, and they have a say in stuff.
Yeah, they're part of the
happy students.
Yeah, they feel that they belong to the whole institution. That's great. I'm glad I asked that. Okay, Mike, I want to switch gears here and talk about the admissions piece. And a couple things I want to ask you about. One that jumped out to me was early decision seems like a big, or a program for you guys. Like, there's a fair number of students that come through early decision. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we do. And I don't know if it's a double-edged sword now, because I'll let you know, in the past, we usually get about maybe 30 people early decision. The people that brave the waters, put all their eggs in one basket, and they love us, they're going to do it. This past year, I don't know if it's COVID or whatever, we had 80 plus people apply early decision.
Oh my.
And we have to take a step back, and just like really focus on what's our meaning for early decision. Every school uses early decision for different reasons. And we need to define what we want to see in an early decision person. And it sounds simplistic. It's like we want someone who really wants Tulane. We want people who want Tulane and not just medical school. But it's more than that. We want people, especially early decision, that if they're going to make this commitment to us, that we're a good school for them. We're not just a medical school. There's a lot of these applicants, they'll be good at any medical school. They're good people, they're good applicants, and they'll do well anywhere. But and I always tell this to everyone, if you want to like reach your potential, that fit really needs to be there. And it's not just you need to be a good fit for the school, but the school needs to be a good fit for you as an applicant, as a student. And so what you're trying to get out of medical school education, we want to be able to provide. If you want something that we can't do or don't have, then it's just any other medical school. You're just trying to get a medical degree and move on. And so for early decision, this year, we're really trying to get back to that 2030. We don't know how many people are going to apply this year. I know I've had plenty of meetings with people who wanted early decision. And so we know we're going to have a fair number of applicants for early decision this year, hopefully not more than last year. But we really want them to realize, and I tell them all, you need to do your homework and figure out what you really want at medical school. Don't be comfortable with the process just because maybe you're a Tulane student or Tulane master students and like, oh, I just, I like the city. I want to stay here. I mean,
it's convenient, but
but do your homework and really figure out if this is the place you want to be. Because I will tell you, our committee is really going to hone in on the fact, is this convenience for you? Is this something that you just want medical school? Or do you want Tulane University School of Medicine? And so that's what we're going to do this year more than anything. So, and I've been trying to preempt some of these conversations with some of our early decision people and let them know, like, hey, I know in the past, maybe because I know what's out there. I try to ask everyone, like, hey, how'd you hear about this? What's your decision process behind this? And some people flat out told me, oh yeah, the word's out that, if you apply early decision, it's a way to get into medical school. And I was like, okay. Thanks for ruining it for everyone else now. And so we're going to really try to focus on that and make sure the applicant is a good fit for us, but we're a good fit for the applicant. And I know that's a very broad sense, but yeah, that's what I got right now.
Mike, do you recommend that if they're going to think about applying to early decision, do you recommend they talk to you first?
Yes,
they have to be pre-approved before they're allowed to do this?
They don't have to be pre-approved, but it will at least help if we see an application that, like if someone comes in and hasn't had any conversations with us and they apply early decision, and we will kind of send the application around to everyone like, hey, have you heard of this person? Where did this person come from? Do you know? And not to say it is a clear rejection, but it's hard. It's really hard when we don't know anything about you. We don't even know if you're a good fit. Because there's a lot of good people that look great on paper. And then when you in the interview, like, oh, this is really not going to be a good fit for us. And so we really want to make sure that we're not wasting anyone's time on this.
Because it's high risk, high reward early decision.
It is. And we want to make sure, especially if you get that interview, you don't get in, you're at the back of the line applying for other medical schools.
In the middle of October.
Yes. And I mean, I tell everyone, if you're applying in October, you might as well not apply. So
it can be rough. It can be rough.
It's going to be hard. And so we want to make sure that we don't hold anyone hostage with that, and try to be upfront and honest with them and let them know, like, hey, let's chat. Well, I mean, we can chat 15, 20 minutes about the process. I'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything. I always tell it like people chuckle when I say, this is just like a pharmaceutical ad commercial. You're sitting there, people are running on the beach, everyone's having a great time. And like the climax of the commercial, the fine print comes up and says, oh, by the way, you take too much of this, you might die.
Yeah.
Like the fine print of early decision is, it's great. You get where you're going to do it going. It's the pressure's off. You find out if you get in before everyone else. But, if you don't get in, you're in the back of the line, and it's hard to get into medical school after that.
Yeah.
And so we want everyone to understand and make those informed decisions on themselves. I don't try to be a salesperson and push anyone one way or another. I just say, here's all the items you need to think about, things you need to think about, and you need to make the best decision for you. Talk to significant other, your family, friends, whatever the case may be. But you need to make this decision best for you.
Do you find that people that are usually successful in early decision have maybe one, talked to somebody at the school, or two, have some kind of connection as to why, in addition to an interest, but like my spouse is going to have a job here in New Orleans, or my family here in town, even though I'm from Virginia, my aunt and uncle live in New Orleans. I'd like to be close to family. Does that help too? Or is it, there's a lot of other factors?
I would say it doesn't hurt, but it's not going to be one of these, oh my gosh, this person has connection. It helps because at least it helps the applicant get a sense of like, all right, I understand New Orleans. I understand maybe the culture at Tulane. I understand a little bit of, the people who have never been to the city and don't really know what they're getting themselves into.
You just kind of randomly get an application from somewhere.
It's hard because we don't know on paper if they're going to be a good fit for the school and that kind of stuff. So it helps in the fact that I think it helps the applicant more to make that determination that it's a good fit for them or it's a good route for them. But for us, we're not going to sit there and like, oh, this person knows New Orleans. Yeah, you might know the Bourbon Street New Orleans.
Right.
The culture of New Orleans.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about with regards to admissions is you don't have any required prerequisite courses.
Yes,
they're all recommended.
Yes.
So what was the philosophy that went into that decision?
Honestly, it's because we feel, and like I said, every school has their different definition of what holistic admission is. We know that's the buzzword that's going around. But we truly feel like if someone's going to do holistic admissions, and for us, if we're going to look at the entire applicant, the person, there shouldn't be any minimums of anything. So it shouldn't be any prereqs. It shouldn't be any minimum GPAs or MCAT scores. So now we're going to make sure that you can get through a medical school curriculum.
You got to be a viable student.
Failure. Yes. But just because someone doesn't have one particular class, does that mean that or course, whatever? Or I know a lot of places, they might want that particular course at a 4-year school versus a community college or whatever the case may be. Does that make them someone that deserve opportunity to get reviewed and say, oh, this person can do it? Or yes, maybe the circumstances dictated that they could only do this course at a community college or so forth. And so we're not going to hold that against the applicant. And it's, and I'm going to chuckle at this because if everyone else in the school, everyone else in the medical world has requirements, guess what? They're going to have,
I know.
Have them with us.
I mean, you got to take the MCAT. And so usually you got to take coursework to prepare you for that. So you're going to get it somehow. Yeah, and if you're applying to, usually students apply to, I think this year the average is like 17, but in the past it was like around 13 schools. We have a slightly similar philosophy. Like, if they're applying to those other places, they're going to have those courses anyway.
Correctly. So, and I'll be honest, and just sure selfishness, I don't feel our staff, we don't need to go through all that. Look through all their transcripts.
They have 2 semesters of organic chemistry. Yeah.
We're not going through that. And so, but guess what? We know other schools are going to look for that. So
right.
if they apply to other schools, they're going to have it. So that kind of helps us out in that process. But we really want to make sure that, like, as you just said, if you're preparing for the MCAT, you're going to have to take most of these courses. And that's how we recommend these courses. Mm-hmm. And I know everyone thinks, if it's recommended, that means it's required. Honestly, for us, it's not. It's recommended just to help you be a better applicant.
And I will say, because we have some minimum requirements, but it does get a little hard so I can see why it's easier for you guys, because like the UC system's on the quarter system and our recommendations say semester, and we get emails all the time. Well, will this matter? And we answer it and stuff, but not every course fits in a nice little box on a chart.
Right.
And so I can see the rationale. Hey, students know what they need to take to be a viable medical student in the basic coursework to be prepared for pre-med and the MCAT and stuff. So we'll get them here.
And I guarantee no one's applying to medical school without majority of that coursework anyway. And if they do and they have any questions, we see you don't have any requirements. That means I can apply with any. I'm like, well, you can, but it's going to be unsuccessful because of X, Y, and Z.
And our end too, for listeners to know, we in AMCAS, or however it's displayed on our end, but we see a chart and there's a column for all sciences, all non-sciences, and cumulatively. So if that all science column has nothing in there, that's going to stand out.
Yes.
So.
Yes. I mean, we each year we have probably about maybe 18 to 25% of our students are non-science majors. They come in, and we even know that our non-science majors, they take science courses because they're they're smart enough to not do themselves a disservice.
Yeah. You can be an art history major and take the pre-med kind of coursework.
Right.
Still have the basic foundation to prepare yourself to be a good medical student. Let me ask you another question about the admissions process. You guys get like 12,000 applications.
I wish we got 12,000 this past year. We got 17,000 this past year.
17,000 this last year. And interview around like 600 or so.
Yes.
I guess people would want to know how do I get into the 600 that's being invited for an interview? What does that person have in their application that would lead to that invite? How do you get there?
The number one question people always ask, how do I stand out? Right?
Oh yeah, I get that all the
time. and I tell everyone, it sounds very simple, but you would be shocked by out of the 17,000, 16,000 make the same mistake. And I tell everyone, make sure your application is about you and not about making your application what you think the school wants to hear. And so many people, they will omit stuff off their application. They won't highlight something that was a huge part of their life, but they're like, oh, well, schools don't want to hear that. They want to hear.
Like what? What would that be?
Oh, so for example, I tell everyone, college athletes do this all the time. They minimize their 4 years that they've done something while being a good student, and if you were good enough to play, I don't care, Division 1, 2, 3, NAI, it doesn't matter. If you're good enough that someone wanted you and recruited you to play a sport and at a high level, and able to get good grades and stay involved in stuff, you have mastered time management.
Yes.
And guess what?
Absolutely.
If you can do that, that's half the battle. People who leave off jobs they've had that have not been, that they seem like that it's not medically related. So they waited tables, they're, bartenders, they whatever the case may be. They leave that stuff off thinking, oh, med schools don't want to hear that. They just want to hear about my time in the lab. Yep. Whether you were doing anything substantial in the lab or not. There's, I have research hours, yet, maybe we want to hear how you did all that stuff and worked your way through college and you were able to, wait tables while being a good student, because now you've dealt with rude customers. You've dealt with, once again, time management issues of maybe working a late shift and then get into that 8 o'clock class in the morning. You've done all this stuff. And sometimes they just don't think that we want to hear
There are
that.
transferable skills.
Correct. They want to just tell us stuff that they think, oh, well, med schools only hear about this. They only care about this. They only care about, and I always call it being a robot. I do science, I do lab, and then that means I'm going to be a good doctor. And I'm like, well, no, it's much more than that. Those transferable skills that you learn outside the classroom in certain social situations. I'll give you another example. And this, every year I talk to people about this. People in fraternities and sororities, they always want to talk about, I was the leader of the intake, committee, or I was the leader of this and that. And they emphasize that on the application. Yet they don't talk about the philanthropic, like the mission statement of it. And so I was like, and I always say, it's like, so why did you not talk about that? Oh, well, I want you to let you know I was a leader. I was like, well, everyone applying to med school is a leader, but I said, what else did your sorority or fraternity do? Oh, well, we ran this food drive every single year, it's this many dollars for this school, or we had a tutoring outreach thing with the local community. I'm like, well, how come you didn't mention any of that? Oh, but I want to show you I was a leader. Yeah. I was like, that's great, but all this other stuff I feel is more important than just a title of being a leader.
Yeah, it got you out in the community. That was a vehicle for getting you out of your comfort zone, let's say, of going out and doing some things in the community.
Yes, so many people leave that stuff off and they make their application sounding like 16,000 other applications, but the 1,000, we still got to narrow down 600, but the 1,000 are the ones that you can actually tell, like, oh, this is an actual person. They're smart, they're connected in their community, they're involved in their community and in their school, and they have a passion for medicine. They know their why, all that stuff. Those are the ones that are different. The ones that just kind of just have the standard. I was always one of the doctor sense, pick whatever age here. And so I did this, and this. That's why I want to be a doctor. Yeah. So many applications are just like that. And those are the ones that don't inspire us to want to get to know you better.
How did you get through all those this year? I mean, long nights and
a lot of time. I will tell you, my screening committee is great. It helps that everyone on our screening committee has similar outlook of what we want to see in a medical student. It's a committee that involves everyone from, people that get on their fourth year, see them on their third and fourth year rotations, to some people who actually teach people before they get into med school. And so it's because our people that work with our students for their career choices in medicine. And so we all have a similar outlook of what we want to see. And so it is a lot of applications, but you know what you're looking for. So it's easier. And I hate telling people, next question, well, what are you looking for? I was like, no, I don't want to tell you what we're looking for. So you just do it. So you can, can like in med school, we want you to actually be that type of person. You shouldn't be prompted to be this type of person.
So if people have been listening for a while, I think a common theme we hear from all these different deans and directors is be yourself and project who that self is in your application, not fake self.
Correct.
Just be yourself. When talking to somebody, the dean from Duke, he's like, the personal statement, it's personal.
Right.
Tell us your story, your personal story, so sometimes you just got to bring it right back down, just the foundation, just be yourself and just tell us what you've been doing. And don't leave anything out like that would think that we're not interested in. Oh man.
I like I said, it sounds very simple. Be yourself, know your why and why you're passionate about, and why you're passionate about. If you can convey that in your personal statement, that usually gets an interview.
How do you guys feel about gap years? This is a question I've been getting recently because now people are starting to think about, should I apply this year? Should I apply next year? What do you guys have a position?
We don't really have a position per se, but I will say the people that do have gap years, and it's just a maturity thing, they are a little more mature. Whatever they do in their gap year, don't care what it is. It just enhances your application, the experience they get. And the people that I talk to, that I've interviewed and our current students who took a gap year, they always say that, you know what, if I applied right after school, yes, maybe I would have gotten it, maybe I wouldn't, but I wasn't mentally ready, and they were able to do stuff and get some of the energy out, because I tell them, hey, once you're in med school, that's essentially your job. I don't care your first year, the second year, you're in the medical profession. And so we've had students take gap years just for a lot of different things. The most creative one was we had someone who had an opportunity to tour with a band. They were actually musicians, Brant New Orleans musician, yes. And so they were all worried about like, well, if it's not, I'm not pursuing a research thing or not. They're like, so I'm going to be in a band and we're touring. And I'm like, go for it, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Had someone take a gap year. And if he ever hears this, he's going to hate me for this. He was a contestant on The Voice. And, and he called me and he was all nervous. Like, well, I have this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, man, I want you to go do that. I was like, 2 reasons. 1, you're never going to be able to go back and do it.
Yeah.
And 2, I want you to win because I want to put that trophy in my trophy case outside. I'm like, I'm just doing something. The Voice contestant.
Yeah. That's great.
People should just go ahead and do it. Don't overthink it. If you feel like, if you question it, you should do it.
If it's something meaningful that you kind of have in mind.
Correct.
You might
give it a shot.
Yeah. Keep it on the table. Usually it's the parents that are a little worried, like,
of course,
you're going to lose your momentum. You're never going to get out of our basement. It's really popular now. I guess if I could just say it's a not uncommon to see that in applications.
It's one of those things where now students like, well, I have a unique situation. I'm going to take a gap year. I'm a non-traditional. I'm like, non-traditional are now becoming the traditional student. Tell people it's not uncommon for any of this. Whatever the student is saying is, we've seen it all and we've dealt with it all.
But to be fair, though, it's not that students coming right from undergrad are disadvantaged. Every year, a lot of students coming straight from undergrad go right into med school, and it's perfectly fine. But just these questions come up to us. Clearly, you get the same questions too, and so we're just trying to share, just the things that we run across or the other opportunities students have. It's just you can or you can't. It's up to you.
It's up to you, and like you said, just once again, go back to being you. And if you feel like you need this, if there's experience that you want to do, go for it.
To talk about the interview day a little bit. So you guys are going to be virtual this coming cycle again.
Correct. Yes. We may do it for here on out too. So
is that right? Well, I know you can't predict the future, what's going to go, but like that might be the case.
We're thinking that we've seen a lot of advantage, and we've heard from a lot of other schools that this kind of levels the playing field a little bit. You have a situation where you have students who maybe had, if they got, 15 interview invites, instead of now thinking, oh my gosh, I got it. Well, granted, I would love them to kind of narrow it down. That'd be great. But they don't have to narrow it down because of finances. They can actually narrow it down because of, all right, now what do I really want to look for at school? Not like, well, a flight to this place is expensive, a hotel staying with this place is expensive. They can actually do this virtual interview. And selfishly, I can get more faculty to help out with anything.
Yeah, we saw the same thing too. Yeah,
I can do it in the office. It's better. And so this coming year, we'll see.
Yeah,
about keeping it on from here on out.
So what's the process? So somebody gets an interview invite, and this year and last year it's virtual. What's the day like? What can they expect?
Gotcha. So we do traditional interviews. I know I've been to all these AAMC conferences, and everyone's tried to talk me to do MMIs, and I haven't heard a compelling argument yet. Maybe just because, like I said, I'm born and raised in Richmond, so I'm a Southern boy, and being in New York, in the deep South now, we want to get you, we want to put our arms around you, hug you, and, we really want to get to know you as a person. And I feel, I'm not going to say one way is right or wrong, but I feel like you can't really get that at MMIs. And so we do one-on-one interviews. Our day, we have our applicants interview with a faculty member. They have a one-on-one with a current medical student, and we do a standardized patient exercise with them. Not to get into too details because we want to surprise them.
Right.
But we tell them, like, look, don't be nervous about it. You don't need to have any medical knowledge before the standardized patient exercise. And that's essentially the interview day. Just those three basic things. Of course, there's a tour and that kind of stuff, but virtual tour now. But for the most part, the faculty interview is half an hour, the student interview is about 45 minutes, and the standardized patient exercise about 20 minutes. And I feel, and people on committee feel that that's just a good way to really ask the questions you want to get answers to, and ask the follow-up questions and so forth.
Do the faculty and medical students have full access to the application, or is it partially closed?
No. It is totally closed. Well, not totally closed. I'll take that back. The students don't have any access to their application, so they need to just talk with them. And
they just know the name.
Their name and the school they came from. That's pretty much it. Yeah. And we have a couple questions that we ask them, but it's your standard questions, like almost like your why New Orleans, why Tulane, that kind of stuff. But the faculty, they only have access to their personal statement and their secondary. They don't have access to the stats per se. So they can ask about particular activities or particular something in their personal statement, but that's it. And that's done on purpose. So we want to make sure that they've already been screened. We don't need interviewers, especially faculty interviewers, ask them like, "Oh, what happened with this MCAT score? What happened?"
Like,
organic
time for that.
Like, why? Well, no, that doesn't tell me anything about the person, And so that's why I purposely do that.
Yeah, I always kind of joke to people, like, medical students are very well vetted. Like, nobody accidentally gets into med school. Like, there are so many layers in the vetting process, from screening to interviews to you don't just accidentally get there. And
that doesn't happen at all.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot there's the admissions committee process.
Right,
so sometimes when students come, and I know this is a common kind of thing, sometimes they feel like there's this imposter syndrome. And when I hear somebody who kind of feels it, we're like, look, like you didn't just slip in here. This wasn't accidental. Like you're supposed to be here. Like
I'm sure you probably get it too. So many students, like first year students, after they're in, they'll come talk to me about something, and they're like, "Hey, can I just ask you a question? Like, what did you see in me that you picked me?" I'm like, I'm like, why are you even asking? You're here. Like, if we liked you, we liked you. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be at the spot where you're at now because we believed in you. I said, I just don't understand. I just feel like, there's so many other good applicants out there, but why me? And like you said, it's that imposter syndrome. We're like, look, you didn't get this far by luck. You worked your butt off. And so start believing it.
Yep. Well, we saw a spark. Yeah. So take your spark and go do great things. How about that? So after the admissions, so interview day is done.
Yes.
Then it comes to the admissions committee process.
Which we have a very weird process. Well, the only reason I say it's weird because when we got LCME accredited, they said it was weird, but it got full accreditation. So
they approved it.
They approved it. So obviously it's not too weird. Our committee doesn't really, we don't meet. We don't have like every Friday get in a conference room to meet. We don't. Everything's done virtual. We send our applications or the full application, even all the interview day notes and stuff, all that gets sent to the committee. And they'll rate it. This past year, in the previous years, what we did was we just you gave them one rating. But what I started to see was kind of the old school mentality of, oh, well, this person got a GPA at this school, and I don't think this school's that hard.
Oh, like information bias.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I started seeing that, and I decided to change the rating system. And I'm not going to take full credit for this. I stole this from Ohio State. I was at a WMCA conference, and he gave this presentation, and I was like, I am using that. And so now every part of the app, we divide the application, the review process in thirds. 1/3 is the interview day, 1/3 is the stats, and the 1/3 is the activities. And so they get a ranking on each one of those items. I haven't been able to fully pull the stats part out because I do feel like if they were screened, they're good enough for medical school. So why are we double screening them? But as you know, sometimes old school stuff, it takes
a while to change.
Yes. And so that's my ultimate goal down the line. But right now we divide it in thirds. And so they get email, everything's done through our application portal system, and they'll go through and they'll give a ranking on each one of those aspects. And then that averages to a total ranking for that applicant. Then from there, then each applicant is vetted by 3 faculty members and 1 student. As I said before, students are on our committee, and I like them because they give a unique perspective, especially since they are currently in the process now. So they have this unique ability, like, this person will fit in with the class. So this person can get through this being here in New Orleans. And so, or they just look at something totally different as far as a faculty member may think like, oh my gosh, this person's great. And then the student will look through and say, look, in their student interview, they said this, or they said that. And that's, I don't think that's cool. And I'm totally, and so then they get their ranking or rating, whatever they say. And then we have another subcommittee from the admissions committee that kind of looks through all of them. I'm like, all right, these are people going to offer admissions. These are people going to put on our acceptance range list. And these are the people that, you know what, bye-bye, we were wrong.
Let go. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's multiple layers there. It's not just one group. And that's what the LCME looks for. Are there layers, and it's not just one small super subcommittee or something. I can see why they passed it though. It was just weird when we first told them, and they're like, hold up, y'all don't meet? I'm like, well, virtually. There's been other schools. I know other schools like that they don't physically get together and discuss. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we need to have a support group thing because it's so weird.
So what if somebody they don't get? I always ask people this: if they don't get the acceptance offer right away and they're put on your wait list, what's the process for them then? Do you want to hear from them? Or are you just like, hey, don't call us, we'll call you kind of thing? What's your recommendation?
Well, this is probably going to sound bad, but we tell them I tell some people straight up. I was like, if it helps you to sleep at night that you want to send a letter of intent, or you want to send updates, go for it. You can do it right to your application portal. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Unless you put in there, like, you discovered the cure for cancer, like, hey, guess what? You're going to be our med student tomorrow. But other than that, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But I know, thinking about the applicant, if they want to know that they did everything possible to get on the radar, to like, I'm going to do everything I want to, I can do. So I'm going to send all the letters of interest. I'm going to get 8 more letters of recommendation. You know what? Go for it. If it helps you feel better, do it. I'm not going to discourage it.
Yeah. It's just so somebody might feel like you said, like, I did everything I could.
Yes.
And I had the option to submit stuff and I did it. And we'll see how things flesh out in the end. So
that is absolutely correct.
All right. Let's see. I think we kind of hit all that stuff is there anything, Mike, before we kind of wrap things up, is there anything else we didn't talk about that, I don't know, when you were kind of preparing to sit down and talk with me today, I want to make sure we hit all these things. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you?
I So the one thing I want to mention that I tell everyone is when they're looking at Tulane, and you can probably see it on the website, you can see it if you talk to any of our students, community service plays a huge part in our culture here at Tulane. The first 2 years, actual community service is a service learning requirement that we have in our first year and our second year, a certain amount of hours. But our philosophy is if we get people who already have a background in community service, we're not going to be twisting someone's arm to get it done. We've never had any issues. They always get it done. And that's just the type of, we want students here to have that focus of giving up themselves for others. You know, I think that's ultimately what a doctor does. And so if you get involved in community service, it doesn't even have to be medically related. We have so many things or activities our students are involved in that are not medically related. We have our SNMA chapter. They're awesome. They every year they do a toys and bike drive for kids, underserved kids here in New Orleans.
Nice.
We have I know it is kind of science related, but our women's society, our women in medicine group, they go to different schools in the area and try to promote STEM, especially for young girls in the local school systems here. We have Lobs for I forgot the name of the group, but they go around and teach tennis lessons. So we have, of course, Habitat for Humanity, all these sorts of things that our students get involved in. And it just shows that there's another side of medicine that once you become this big time doctor, that's our students can be big time doctors. We still want you to have that attitude, like I need to learn, I need to give back, I need to do more with myself and my talents and my whatever it is, and so that's why it's woven out their entire curriculum, and it's a culture here of giving back. So that's
awesome.
I love our students, and I haven't heard any grumblings like, "Oh my gosh, we have to go feed the homeless." No one ever says that.
I just not only do we want you to come and be a part of Tulane, but you want you to be a part of our community.
Correct.
And
trust me, if you come to New Orleans, people here will want you to be part of their community.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Hey, Mike, this has been great, man. Very thorough. And thank you for being open about your process and all the great programs that you have there. So I appreciate your time. This has been really fun, man.
Oh, I appreciate you, and thank you for doing this, and thank you for providing this information platform for a lot of people who may not know or have that access to.
Well, I told you before I hit record, I couldn't do it. People like you guys, I'm just the one that hits record.
No, you're doing a fantastic job. Like I said before, I was doing my homework on you before we started, and I was looking through all your stuff. It's like, oh, this is awesome. This is great.
Oh, thanks.
Keep doing the great work.
Well, thank you, man. Hey, I'm gonna let you go. I'll see you around.
See ya. Have a good one.